2.
2 viewers so far. Hey, put a comment and see if we can see the comments coming up. There we go. Cool.
Boom.
Alright. Give it about another minute or so. Hello, Amy.
Amy, what's going on?
What is this announcement?
Oh, no.
He's pregnant.
Joy.
She tagged Joey.
Yeah.
Joey watches football, doesn't she? Eagles
She's
fan,
an Eagles
right?
fan, yeah. And she's got a huge crush on me, so.
Alright, ready?
Oh, always.
Alright, everybody, welcome to another episode of Talk is Cheap.
Hold on.
It's,
Amy said I can't hear anything. Okay.
oh,
never
okay,
mind.
she just can't hear anything. Okay. If anybody's having any issues with the volume, please let us know. Welcome to another episode of Talk is Cheap. It's a little different this year. Neil had to back out due to personal reasons. He can't do it this year, so I have a new co-host, Brent Johansson. It's pretty ugly, I know, but it's what we had to roll with. So we look forward to seeing you all support us all year, and we appreciate everything you guys have done for us so far. So let's get to the questions that were asked. We'll start out with Jeff's question. He wanted to know if the Cowboys signed Earl Thomas, how would it impact the landscape of the NFC East? In my opinion, I think it would definitely help the Cowboys. But the Cowboys always seem to have a very talented roster every year. They should win the division every year on paper, but it doesn't work out like that. So I'm kind of more of a show me before I assume you're going to win the division. I think they have the ability to win it, and I think McCarthy's a better coach than Jason Garrett was. So I think the signing would help, but as far as I know, they're not even interested in signing him. Last time I heard, so I don't even know if that's even on the table. Thoughts, Brent?
Yeah, so obviously Earl Thomas is like a top 5 free safety in the league. I don't really think you can question that. So obviously him joining the Cowboys would be huge, with the secondary and the Cowboys defense kind of being really the only hole on that team. So having Earl Thomas come to the Cowboys, I think, would be huge in making the Cowboys a better team. But Earl Thomas also has all those off-the-field issues with his brother. And he also is known to punch teammates now and make a whole bunch of distractions. So why not go to Dallas? Why not go where all the troublemakers go?
Jerry loves the bad boys for some reason.
100%.
And he wonders why he can't win playoff games.
It never works out for him, but he likes to do it. But I think that when it comes to the NFC East, an Earl Thomas signing might be enough to push the Cowboys into like a definite favorite, because it's really a 2-team race there. But for the whole landscape of the NFC, I don't think Earl Thomas puts the Cowboys in a position where they're now like the New Orleans Saints or one of the upper echelon teams of the NFC.
Yeah, I think you got to prove it before you're mentioned with the New Orleans and the Packers,
right,
and teams like that, Seattle. You got to prove it first. I know Dallas, in theory, is up there every year in the media's eyes, right, but it doesn't translate to on the field success. They should have ran away with the division last year. Carson Wentz was throwing to people from that
the
they hired from
practice squad.
Subway.
Yeah.
So like, you just got to show me first. I definitely think on paper it definitely helps. We'll have to see how it works. Obviously, a lot of injuries come into play, those type of things. So we'll see how it goes.
But I don't even think Earl Thomas is going with the Cowboys. Not as an Eagles fan, but just because I don't know how they're going to pay him. With the mixed reports of him saying, or the Ian Rappaport saying that he's not even interested in going there. Like, I don't know where he's going to end up going.
It always baffles me when players that don't have a job are super picky about where they go.
Right, yeah. Like, let me just sign a contract and
look
get
at
out there.
Jadeveon Clowney now. He's
Right.
super picky about his money situation. He's not going to make a dime now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. The next question was by Dustin. He wanted to know if Earl Thomas would be the best fullback in Tennessee if he was signed by the Titans. I know Brent had something to say about this.
Okay, so anyone that watched that playoff game with the Ravens versus the Titans know that Earl Thomas might actually be a better fullback than he is a safety. Like, he was creating runways like crazy for Derrick Henry. So if Earl Thomas went to Tennessee as a fullback, not as a safety, just look out, because he's gonna just set records for blocking. It's unreal.
That was funny. Watching that go down was hilarious.
Especially after all the trash talk, he was like, "Oh, we're not even worried about Derrick Henry," and then he's just getting shoved around.
I don't think any team should ever say that. I just don't. You can think you're good, but we gotta respect Derrick Henry.
I mean, yeah, he literally led the league in rushing, and you're gonna say you're not worrying about him? Okay.
Yeah, that's foolish. And those type of things always burn you. Ask the Eagles' old linebacker when they played the Vikings. Remember that?
Yeah, and then he's out of the league now. So.
Yeah, that worked out well. Next question was by Sherry. She wanted to know who won the trade between the Jets and the Hawks. Jamal in a fourth for 2 first-rounders, a third, and McDougal. In my opinion, I think it's going to depend more on what happens after this. It's a little early to say. If I had to put, if somebody made me choose right now, I would lean on Seattle, just because of how good Jamal Adams is and the fact that the first rounders that they traded away, Seattle is always a playoff team, so they always pick at the end of the first round, so it's not like you're getting the best college talent that came out of the draft. But again, that's something that we have to wait to see until after they play, because if Russell Wilson goes down week 1, then the Seattle Seahawks are going to win 5 games and they're going to pick 3 or 4. So it's just one of those things where I want to kind of wait. But as right now on paper, I got to say Seattle won that trade, especially if they win a Super Bowl because of it. Then they really won that trade. So we'll have to see, because I don't know. You say their safeties were good, but I've seen them give up a lot of big passes. So I can't 100% say that wasn't a necessary acquisition there for Seattle.
Right, and I'm basically in the same ballpark. It's really too early to tell, because you don't know who these first rounders are going to be that the Jets are picking. Seattle's always at least making it to the divisional round, so you're going to be picking in the mid-20s, and then if they win the Super Bowl, you're going to be picking 32. So usually the guys that are picked towards the end of the first round, they're solid contributors, but they're not a proven superstar. Jamal Adams is going to go out there and ball every game. So if I had to say right now, I'd lean towards the Seahawks, because you're getting a 24-year-old safety. You don't have to pay him right away, because even though he said he wanted his new contract, he said he's going to play on his rookie deal for Seattle, so you don't have to pay him. He goes out there, he sacks, he hits, he does everything but intercept the ball. And then with COVID happening and all the college teams opting out of playing, the draft next year I think is going to be an absolute crapshoot.
Yeah,
so
it's a fair point.
You really don't know what you're going to get out of that draft, at least for the 2021 season, and possibly going forward if COVID never gets fixed. But so I would lean towards Seattle, just because you know what you're getting out of him, and you don't know from the Jets standpoint what you're going to get from that standpoint.
Right, and then that kind of leads us into our next question, which is also by Sherry. How much of an impact will there be on the draft if college or some colleges don't play this year? I think it's going to have a huge impact on the draft, because there are already players saying they're going to opt out, so they're not even going to play, right? So how does that impact compared to players that do play and ball out, right? Or they also said that they're already granting an extra year of eligibility for those people, so how many players are going to come back?
Right.
And how many are actually going to choose to go to the draft? Because there could be guys who are leaning between second, first round picks that are I want to play another year so I can make sure I'm a first rounder. Yep. Or you got guys who are I'm a fourth round pick and they're I know I have first round talent, so they're going to play. Or you got guys who are like Trevor Lawrence who I haven't heard that he's not going to play. I'm just using him as an example. That could be I'm a number 1 pick already. I'm just not going to play.
But then you miss your entire final year in college, and then you don't
He
get
could
that
regress
experience.
too. Yeah.
You don't have excellent tape on how he's developed as he's gotten older, more mature. So it really can hurt or raise draft stock, and so that's why I think that the draft is going to be like an absolute just ducks in a barrel. It's going to be crazy. Like
Yeah,
you're gonna see people get drafted in the first round that normally you'd see taken in the third round.
Yeah, you may see people that you in the first round you've never even heard of before,
Yeah.
and usually that doesn't happen. Craig, how about Cleveland's new offensive line?
What offensive line?
They've definitely improved. I think they've improved the offensive line. That's got to be good for Baker, but at the same time, then there's going to be no excuses for Baker. He's going to have to perform. It was kind of like Cousins in Minnesota last year. They got a better offensive line. They had to make the playoffs last year. He was going to take the brunt of the blow. He's in the same boat now.
Right.
He's full of too many weapons. So if you've gone to the point where you've improved the offensive line like Cleveland thinks they have, then Baker's got to perform now. He's got no excuses. Kitchens isn't there. He's got what you guys call protection, so he's got to perform now.
Baker's on his way out, in my opinion. Well,
I
I think
wouldn't
it's
say that
kind of too early. He was the number one pick in the draft, and he's only been in the league for 2 years.
And he had a good rookie season. So right now it could just be a sophomore slump. We got to wait.
Lawrence is a Brown neck. Oh, well, if Lawrence is going to be a Brown, then you're going to have a really bad season, Craig. Because
yeah, you're going to have to be worse than Jacksonville.
Because Lawrence is no matter if Lawrence sits out or not, Lawrence is most likely going to be the number one pick in the draft, I think. And so, if you're going to get rid of Baker for Lawrence, you're essentially saying, okay, well, our first rounder 2 years ago that is going out there and playing decent football is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little too early to pull the plug on Baker, even though he did regress. I think that was more of a Freddie Kitchens problem over a Baker problem.
And I think Cleveland thinks that.
Yeah, so I would definitely give Baker at least like this year before you start having those talks, because you have a new philosophy coming in. Coaches that traditionally come from Minnesota have a pretty good standpoint on how football is actually supposed to be played. So we'll see how that actually goes. I think the Browns are going to be surprisingly good this year, and they have no excuses not to be.
Yeah, their roster's loaded. Really, if they don't perform this year, then I don't know what to tell you. I just don't. I don't know.
On paper, that team should literally win like 14 games.
It should be. I'm not saying win the division because the Ravens are still there and they could win 16 games. So you never know.
But even the Freddie Kitchens Browns beat the Ravens last year.
Yeah.
So
Browns show they have a talent. There were games last year where they showed where the talent clicked. You would think it was more just the coaching.
Yeah, I think
Freddie Kitchens handing the ball off on 3rd and 11 or 4th and 11.
Between the coaching and that offensive line, really put the blame on the Browns there. It wasn't as much of Baker, even though Baker really regressed compared to what he did his rookie year.
Yeah. So next question was by Jeff. He said, if you put Patrick Mahomes on the worst team in football, how many games does that team win? In my opinion, the worst team in football is Jacksonville, especially after getting rid of Yannick today.
That was a great pickup, by the way.
I'll get to that after the questions are over. I'm very excited about that. I think Jacksonville's not even close to.
Is this Super Troopers 3? Oh yeah.
Just wait, we got a bag of weed. I think if you put Patrick Mahomes on Jacksonville, I think they still only win 6 games. I think the offense would be obviously significantly improved because Patrick Mahomes is a great player. But at some point in time, it's still a team game, and you got to be able to stop people. You got to be able to block. You got to be able to run the football. And Fournette has not been capable. I don't care what people say. That dude averages like 3.8 yards a carry. He has not performed the way that he should have performed. You got to be able to run the ball. Coaching, we were regressing coaching. So there is a lot of factors to play there. I think he would win 6 games. I don't think he would play bad necessarily, but it would just be. He goes to a tougher division in my opinion over there because the other 3 teams are pretty solid. I just don't. That's Jacksonville's my opinion of who's the worst team. So that's what I would say. I'd say 6 wins, maybe 7. If Patrick Mahomes pulls out a little magic in one of those games, but again, he would have nobody to really catch the ball. So I mean, just a lot of factors that would make it hard for him over there. So
Right. And for me, I actually wrote down like 5 teams that are all kind of, in my opinion, vying for that worst team slot. I mean, Jacksonville definitely leads the pack, but everyone has different opinions. If you went to Jacksonville, I have them around like 7 wins because look at the Chiefs in the playoffs, and yeah, they have a lot of star power, but they were getting blown out in every one of those games, and without Mahomes, they don't win a single one of those. So I think Mahomes by himself can win you. Surge. I think Mahomes can definitely win you football games, and there's pieces on that Jacksonville offense like Chark. I think Leonard Fournette would definitely benefit if Mahomes was there because you literally have to drop people back into coverage just in case Mahomes decides to audible and throw the ball, where you don't really have that with Minshew. If he went to the Washington football team, I think that's probably a 7 to 8 win team with Mahomes. They have a lot of speedy guys that Mahomes could benefit from, and their defensive line is stacked, so that could keep them in games that way. The Dolphins last year were horrendous until the last quarter of the season. If he went to the Dolphins, I think that's a 10-win football team. They got a lot of new pieces. People were coming there in free agency. They had a solid draft. That could really shake some wins.
Devontae Parker.
Oh yeah. The Panthers are bad. And they only in my opinion, they have Christian McCaffrey. Robbie Anderson's just a burner, but if Mahomes was there, you wouldn't be able to just focus all your attention on Christian McCaffrey, and they might be able to pull 9 wins out and then sneak into that 7th seed. And then the last one, the Lions. If he went to the Lions are stacked on offense. If Mahomes went to the Lions, that team is winning 10, 11, 12 football games. He doesn't get hurt. If he does get hurt, he's back really soon. And with all that star power that's on the Lions' offense, their defense would just have to not lose the game for him. And
that's true, Dylan. You added the Lions to your list, not the Jets.
I think the Jets are better than the Lions. Not with Gase calling the shots, but just the Jets actually have pieces on defense that can keep them from getting completely obliterated, where like the Lions have Trey Flowers.
That's not how they.
Well, but, Desmond Trufant, but he's proven he can't stay on the field. And Okuda is losing his starting job to a 5th-round pick.
Well, no, I don't think anybody's really expecting Okuda to be good right off the get-go.
Right, but like the Jets have, I think, more promise on the defensive side of the point, where I think that if Mahomes, I think the Jets would be better on my list over the Lions. And that's not hate on the Lions. Everyone says that I hate the Lions. I don't hate the Lions. I even wore blue for it. So,
I agree with Brent. I think the Lions would be a 10-win team because they were a 500 team with Stafford. Yep. And no knock on Stafford. He's a great quarterback, and he was having an MVP-type season, but he's not Mahomes, okay? Nobody's going to say that. So at 2 more wins is not that much to throw on top of there for having Mahomes there. So it's really not that. The Lions probably would have been an 8-8, 9-7 team if Stafford was there the whole year. So the 10 to 11 wins would not be a shock for the Lions if they had Mahomes. And
upwards of, you could get 11, 12 wins with them, because the Lions were literally, they were toe-to-toe with the Chiefs.
And the second best offense in the league when Stafford got hurt.
And it's just,
like,
I think
weapons.
If you had Mahomes on a Detroit Lions team, you wouldn't need that defense to really go out there and play lights out like you kind of have to expect them to.
Yeah, like look at the Chiefs the first half of last year. They were giving up like 30 points a game, and they were still winning games. It didn't matter. So, like, definitely helped when they got better. But
yeah, 100%.
Okay, Craig also asked another question. He said, "Is Rodgers legit on his way out, or why draft Love so early?" I think Rodgers is on his way out. I do. I don't think it's right away. I think it's a couple years down the road yet, but I think they've made it almost pretty clear that they're gonna, unless Love just keeps shit in the bed in practice, because I've seen some of his throws. I've seen a couple highlights. I mean, they could just be showing just the negative stuff, obviously.
Remember when they did it with Daniel Jones last year?
Yeah, there's a lot of Packer haters, so I get that. But I'm just saying, they don't like his performance at practice. So I think it would depend on that, but I think they drafted him to, yes, get Rodgers out of town eventually. That's the point. A lot of people feel like Rodgers is regressing. I do a little bit, not as much as some people say he is. I think he's regressed a little bit, but he's still like a top-level talent QB. When the game's on the line, he still manages to pull his team down the field he wants to. He's a little more conservative now than he has been in the past, but you could look at that both ways. That could be a good or bad thing, depending on how you're looking at it. He's not forcing things, right? He's throwing it out of bounds, checking down, whatever. But, that's just kind of how I feel. I just feel like you don't trade up into the first round of draft Jordan Love without a plan that he's going to soon take over that role. And I don't mean like this year. I'm talking a year or two. They're trying to do the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers thing. That's what they're trying to do here. So.
I 100% agree. I think when you look back
Hello,
at
Martin.
What's up, Martin? When you look back at the when the Packers took Aaron Rodgers, they had a Hall of Fame quarterback in Brett Favre, still playing at a good football level, and they still drafted Aaron Rodgers to eventually be his replacement. He sat for, I think, like 4 years before he actually got a chance to play. I don't know if you have 4 years with Aaron Rodgers before it's time to pull the plug on him, just because of how Aaron Rodgers is a me-first type of quarterback, and he definitely lets that know in the media that it's the Green Bay Rodgers, not the Packers. And I know that LaFleur doesn't really get down with that, so Love could be LaFleur's guy. Anyone that has seen Jordan Love practice this season knows that you're not taking Aaron Rodgers' job this season, but maybe year 3 you start having a legitimate conversation about it, but I don't think it's right now.
Okay, we got 2 more questions in the comment. One first, Dylan was first.
Yep.
Honest opinion about the Chargers, though?
Well, what do you want to know? So I think the Chargers definitely have pieces in place. I know I've said this to you a million times, but their offensive line is not good. Without that offensive line, you're not going to see a competitive Chargers team. They might be sub 500 in like a 7-9 season at like best right now, but they're not in a total rebuild, but I don't think they're competing for the playoffs by any means this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have pieces in place for the future.
Yeah.
Also, Tyrod Taylor is a QB who's not going to lose you games, but he's also not going to go out there and win you games.
Exactly.
And at some point, you'll put Herbert in, but the only way Herbert's getting put in this year is if Tyrod Taylor is like bombing.
That right side is stacked though.
Or if the Chargers have already fallen out of playoff contention, now they're going to get him some reps. That's the way that I feel like he's going to see the field. I think they want him to sit and learn, because you can learn from Tyrod. He's been in the league for a few years, and he's been to the playoffs. So he can show you, teach you things, and that you don't have to be a great quarterback to be a great teacher.
Yeah.
We've seen that in the past. Kellen Moore has been very good at teaching people.
Yeah, he's offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, and
he wasn't shit as a quarterback.
Yeah.
So, Dan Orlovsky is one of the best analysts out there for football, and at least in my opinion, I know people are going to differ on that, but and he stunk as a quarterback too. So
he didn't realize that an end zone has an out of bounds.
Right. So yeah, I think the Chargers. I think they'll be competing for 4th place. The Raiders have improved. The Broncos have improved. The Chiefs. The Chiefs are easily going to win the division.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are better than the Vegas Raiders, but the Raiders are going in a faster direction north than the Chargers necessarily are. So I think it's going to be between those two who finishes in 3rd place.
All right, Martin wants to know, how will Cam Newton fit in with the Patriots? Cam has all the talent. We've seen it before. He's got all the talent to be successful. Belichick has a QB recipe. We've seen it with anybody. All right, which is why always been my argument of why I think Peyton Manning is better than Brady, and that's not really a knock on Brady. It's just how good Belichick is, right, at developing an offense that can almost fit anybody. Yeah. If Cam Newton is healthy, he'll do fine in New England. I don't know if he'll be MVP Cam necessarily, but he'll be a good high-end starter. I think close to 10 range probably. He's never been the most accurate pocket passer, so he needs his legs. That's why I'm worried about his health, because he's got to be able to move. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. It's also different in practice, being able to move and stuff until you get on the field. start taking some hits.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes. I think he has. It could fluctuate either way. If he's healthy, he could be top 10 QB. If he's not healthy, he could be bad. So it just really depends. It'd be pretty hard to fail in that offense. So you're gonna have to. I mean, you'd have to be just really, I guess, lost it at this point to.
Right.
That's the best way for me to put it, I guess. That's what I'm looking for.
I think Cam is he's gonna thrive.
So Rosie?
I think he's gonna thrive in New England. I think it's enough where the Patriots are still going to win their division over Buffalo, but when it comes to New England, it's just the weapons aren't really there on offense. Brady was able to make these slant guys just weapon makers because he was just great at it, but Cam has never really been known for his accuracy.
Yeah.
And with these short windows, you really have to be delivering the ball where it needs to go, not just throwing it up and letting your guy come down with it. So that might be a struggle, but Cam is going to bring a form of the game that Tom Brady never did in his 20 years, where Tom Brady never ran. And Cam can escape pressure. He can get the first down on his own. I think that as long as he stays this new and improved Cam that the media is saying that he is, he's the first one in the meeting rooms, he's the last one out. If he continues that mindset and takes everything he can from Belichick, then he can be nasty. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback, but I don't think he needs to be on that team to be successful.
Not with that coach. Another thing I want to point out, though, is we've known Cam's attitude right now. He's first in, first out. After his first big loss, that's where I want to see where Cam goes. Because he's been there. I put the towel over my head and I pout type QB, and it's affected his performances. History's shown that.
Yeah.
The only year that he never had to pout was the 15-1 MVP year because they were just so good. Like
and then
every other year,
in the Super Bowl.
And then in the Super Bowl, you see what happened. He got a little flustered in the first quarter, and his whole game fell apart.
Yeah.
So I just want to see if he's matured. He seems like to me, in the media at least, that he's matured, and that will help his game because if he has a Jay Cutler problem, right? Jay Cutler had all the talent in the world. If he got flustered early on. It was over, right? Like that's it. He would pout, and the game was over. It affected his performance for the rest of the game. So, see how that goes. Speaking of Cam, we go to the next question, which goes to his old team, Carolina. Teddy Bridgewater seems to be lighting things up in Charlotte, Neil says, and growing a pretty good chemistry with CMC, DJ Moore, Samuel, and even Robbie. Does this affect CMC to the point he won't be heavily utilized, or do you feel Teddy is going to need him to be just as good as last year, if not better? Does Teddy end up in the top half QB? It's not going to affect CMC. They know that that's their cash cow. They're going to ride CMC until he breaks down. Like I don't blame them. Like when you have a running back that's that talented in both levels of the offense, rushing and passing, and the guy can block too.
Yeah.
So you gotta utilize that kind of talent, and especially when you got a guy like Teddy who has talent, but you don't know how he can hold up for a whole season and play the whole season, right? So they're not going to try to overuse Teddy. Like that's until he can prove that he's been there a whole season. It's kind of like we're kind of timid here.
Mm-hmm.
Teddy can throw the ball. I don't think anybody's really got a problem with that. It's just about do you want him to take those kind of hits? So just based on that, I don't think he'll be a top end QB because I don't think he'll get the pass attempts to be a top QB. And I think that a lot of his passes will be quick, little slants, stuff where he doesn't have to take a lot of hits, so he's not sitting back there in the pocket. I mean, yeah, they're going to take shots here or there, but most of it's going to be a more conservative type offense like he played with the Saints last year. I think they're going to do that. Maybe next year, if he performs well this year in this type of offense, they might be like he played a full season. Now we can extend him and see what he's got further. He's still fairly young, especially for a quarterback. But I think this year is going to be more of just dink and dunks unless you have to get a first down, like on 3rd and 14 or something, or you need to try to bring your team back down by 1 or something, But, yeah, I just don't think he'll get the pass attempts to even try to be in the top half of the QBs.
Right.
I don't think he'll have a bad year based on how many attempts he has and stuff like that, but it'll just be more of a when Mark Sanchez was decent with the Jets type of year.
Mm-hmm.
19 touchdowns maybe, you know what I mean? Like not high end. CMC will be heavily utilized though. Do not even question that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Darius Sanders is the best running back in football, and I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is going to affect that production at all. I look at like Teddy Bridgewater, and like I know he has just like an amazing story. He came back from something that most people never would, and he showed that in a Saints system that he could go out and not lose you the football games and actually play really well. But Carolina is not New Orleans.
That's fact.
And they have all this. Hold on, we got a guest star here. So they have
podcast mascot.
The Panthers have a lot of potential on offense, with Robbie Anderson being your burner, DJ Moore is great, and Curtis Samuel is that nice little gadget guy. But I don't think that Teddy Bridgewater is the type of quarterback that is going to put the entire team on his shoulders and just go out and ball out like you'd expect from a top half quarterback. I have him more as like between like a 20 and 25 out of the 32 starting quarterbacks. It's not a knock on Teddy as a guy, because he's a great guy, but I just don't think that they're going to be expecting a whole lot out of him in this new offense. It's still the Christian McCaffrey show all the way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The last question we have on our thing was, what does Mitch Trubisky have to do to become a good QB in the league? He's got to get better field vision, man, because like that guy misses open targets all the time. And I know I share the same picture of him missing the wide open guy in Green Bay, but that's not the only time he's missed a guy like that. Like that,
Right.
Like, although that was terrible and it's funny to make fun of, he literally misses people like that. And I feel like he needs to play well early to do anything, because he just seems like he's another guy that gets down on himself. I don't think he's got an attitude problem necessarily, but I think he lacks confidence.
Exactly.
That if he starts to play bad, then he starts to doubt himself inside. I don't think he's like a bad dude where he pouts and stuff, but it's just a mental thing. And now that he's got Nick Foles there, say he gets the starting nod week 1, because he said he's not going to announce it, so I guess they're just going to trot somebody out on week 1 and you're not going to know who it is. If he gets the starting nod, he knows his leash is like this. So I just feel like that might be too much pressure for Trubisky. So field vision's got to improve. His coaches probably know that already. They probably try to work with him. He's got to study film. I don't think that guy looks at film. Like, I really don't. It reminds me, I heard this thing about Jamarcus Russell one time where they were like, they wanted him to study plays. They gave him a bunch of blank tapes, and he came back and said he studied blitz packages.
Yeah.
There was nothing on the tapes, right? Like that just makes me think of Mitch Trubisky. Like, I feel like that's what he does, because he plays the same teams and never performs any better against them. The only team he has a ton of success against is, and I know you'll bring up his record against the Vikings, but he plays like crap against the Vikings. It's the Lions, but everybody plays well against the Lions, so that doesn't mean anything. Like, Stevie Wonder could probably throw 3 touchdowns against the Lions defense, especially last year. So, I mean, I just really think, I feel like if he does study film, he needs to study it harder. Like, more, just deeper into stuff. Like, I don't think he should watch the game and be like, yeah, I studied film. Like,
yeah, I 100% agree. He needs to spend more time in the film room, and I don't know what he does in his free time, but it's definitely not that. Also, one thing that would tremendously help Trubisky is if he just got on the phone, called Peyton Manning up, call one of these accuracy quarterbacks and say, hey, this offseason, like, can you help me figure out what I'm missing out on? And Carson Wentz did that his rookie year. His rookie year, he was not an accurate quarterback. He had like 16 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. The next year, I can't remember the trainer's name, but it's the same trainer for Tom Brady. Carson Wentz had him train him, and then the next year he almost wins MVP. So Trubisky needs to take that next step to work on his accuracy, because time after time, you'll see a wide open Allen Robinson on the sidelines, and Trubisky overshoots him by 15 yards. And there's nobody around him, so Trubisky needs to learn how to put touch on the football, find out where your guy's going to be open at, and then just get the ball there. And I think with Foles there, I think the pressure is going to be too much, and he's not going to win the starting job because of that. He's never had any competition for the job before. And
yeah, no, Chase Daniel's not competition.
No.
So
go
ahead.
No, that was tough for me.
So we had some big news this morning. How you say his name again? I had it down before the podcast.
Yannick Ngakoue.
Ngakoue, right? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm terrible with those type of names, but got traded to the Vikings for a second rounder and a conditional fifth rounder that could possibly be a third rounder. And he took a pay cut, about $5 million almost, to sign with us. I'm pretty sure everyone knows how I feel about that trade. Brent, you have anything to say about the big news this morning?
Yeah, so when Everson Griffin left Minnesota, I thought that there was, Minnesota for years has always had 2 stud defensive ends, and without it, it's going to be so easy to put 2 guys on Danielle Hunter and just eliminate that pass rush. Ngakoue is better than Everson Griffin at this point in time. And so now you have 2 stud defensive ends. Ngakoue plays very well. Every down he's putting 110% in. And that's going to make Minnesota's defensive front just scary. Tough, scary.
Yeah, which is big because they have rookie corners.
Yeah.
Right? So this pickup is going to tremendously help out the defense because those corners who had a lot of pressure on them suddenly feel a little relieved now because a pass rush makes a corner that much better. Like, the quarterbacks don't have time to make the decisions to find the open guy. They got to throw it into tight coverage, and you have field days against it. Yep. Plus, the Vikings have the best safety duos in the league back there also. So it's just going to... Plus, a great linebacking core.
Yeah.
So the corners were the Vikings' really big, question marks. And they still are question marks, but this helps the question mark trend upwards instead of downwards. And it just takes a load off of their shoulders for sure.
100%.
And they've had a great camp already, so that's good. So this just adds something to it. And if the Vikings defense is scary again, watch out because that offense is good over there. So now we're through that. Me and Brent did we broke down and each picked our division winner. We're not going to break down the whole divisional winners, but we're going to each pick a winner from each division. So we can start with Brent. He can go first. We're going to start with the NFC North.
All right, so for the NFC North, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers. I know that's a controversial pick. Minnesota's right there, but for me, it's a 2-horse race there between the Vikings and the Packers, and the Vikings aren't very far behind. It's probably a 1-game meeting between those. It's going to decide who the division winner is, but the Packers won 13 games last year, and who did they lose? Jimmy Graham. It's tough to knock that team. I don't think they're going to win 13 games this year, but I don't think that they're going to regress enough where they are not sitting at the first place in their division. It's tough, but I think it's going to be the Packers get 12 wins, Vikings get 11 kind of situation.
Obviously, everyone's going to know who I'm going to pick, and I try not to be as biased as I can on the podcast, but especially after this morning, it makes it really hard for me not to pick Minnesota.
Right.
Before it was pretty neck and neck for me, but I think this kind of pushes them because, like I said, the question marks before were the corners. Aaron Rodgers would have picked them apart, right? So that's where I was worried about. But having a pass rush, especially the Vikings' success as a pass rush against the Packers, could make a big difference here. The Vikings' offense is always going to be good. Cook's playing for a contract, so he's going to be lights out, probably better than he was last year, especially if he avoids injury. That's the problem, right? Injury. They're going to be. Irv Smith's going to get more reps this year. That's going to be helpful because we've seen him shine last year, right? He had his moments last year where he was in the offense, and honestly, I think he's a better tight end than Rudolph. But Rudolph's got the hands, so that's why he stays in there. Tall, and he never drops anything. So having Irv Smith get some more reps is going to help. Plus, Jefferson's had an amazing camp. Thielen's obviously Thielen. They won 10 games last year, and Thielen didn't even play in 12 of their games. And if he did, he was playing as a decoy because his hamstring was not good. Yeah. So Thielen's always there. Hey Sheldon. Kirk Cousins had a great year last year. I know people like to dog him, but he played well. He had an extremely good year last year. Didn't turn over the ball, which has always been kind of his little question mark there. Was he turned over the ball a lot, especially fumbles. He didn't have a lot of that last year. He had a couple fumbles, but he only threw 5 picks. His fumbles went down. I think he's more in tune with the offense now. the offensive line improved last year, so hopefully they take another step forward. The Packers are the Packers, like he said. They only lost Jimmy Graham. They're always going to be scary. I'm not saying the Vikings are going to run away with this division. I think it's going to be very close. As much as I want to say they'll run away with it because I hate Green Bay, it's just you can never count out Aaron Rodgers, and I really do think it's going to come down to who wins the final game between these two.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how I look at it. So I think the Vikings are better coached too because LaFleur's not
He doesn't have the
just
pedigree.
the experience
Yeah.
at this point. So I'm gonna give the slight edge to the Vikings. Now we'll go to the NFC East if you wanna.
Yeah. So for the first time in 16 years, I think that the NFC East is going to have a repeat division winner. I think the Eagles are going to take that division. And it's going to be just like the Green Bay and Minnesota thing. It's a 2-team race. And my problem with the Cowboys is they can have all the star power in the world, but they go out there and then they lose to the Jets. They can't get it done. Every year they have these crazy big-name signings, and they can't get it done. And on the other side of the spectrum, Carson Wentz, who I think is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, is taking guys that were literally bagging groceries at Walmart, and they're catching game-winning touchdowns, taking teams to the playoffs. Also, you have coaching. I know this is a controversial one because Mike McCarthy in the past has been a great coach, but there's a reason why he's been out of the league for a few years. I don't think that he's got the ability to keep up with a modern NFL team, and so I think the Cowboys are going to struggle because of that. Where Doug Peterson has been in the league for 4 years, and he's taken the Eagles to the playoffs 3 out of the 4 years. So both teams got better in the offseason, but I think with the edge of coaching, I think the Eagles are going to end up taking that division again.
I picked the Cowboys for this division, but it was this one I think was harder than even picking the North for me, just because it was hard for me to pick Dallas because of their track record. They have, I don't care what anybody says, every year they're loaded with talent, every year, and it doesn't always translate. It's like hit and miss every year, with every other year with them. And I know coaching change. I agree with Brent that McCarthy hasn't been in the league for a few years, and there's probably a reason for that. But I don't think it takes that much to be better than Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
So I do think they've improved in that category. I don't know how much, but I think it's at least a slight improvement, if nothing less. He's worked with Aaron Rodgers before. That could help Dak out. Zeke staying healthy would be big for the Cowboys. Staying out of trouble would be big for the Cowboys. They obviously added receiving with Lamb, who a lot of people say was the best receiver in the draft, yet to be determined, because I have my own opinion on that, and it's not Lamb, but I'll give it that he has the ability to be. We'll see how that turns out with Gallup and Cooper also there. The defense, it's always steadily pretty good lately, as of late, the last few years. But the problem is that the defense doesn't show up against teams that it should show up.
Yep.
It didn't show up against Tennessee 2 years ago. It didn't show up against the Jets last year. Or Detroit, right? With Detroit with no Stafford, it gave up like 30 points. So the defense shows up. It's like the defense shows up when it has to against teams that are like good, and then it's like, oh, we're playing a crap team, so we're just going to take the day off today, and then they lose.
Yep.
Like that's the problem, and why it's hard to trust Dallas. I'm gonna just solely on the talent level alone pick them, but Carson Wentz could win this thing. Like I said last year, I said this earlier. He threw to nobody and still brought him there. I know it wasn't like he didn't bring them there shining. Oh, great! like you're like, oh, they have a Super Bowl run in them. But Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. If he stays healthy, which is a problem here.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's going to be, and it'll be interesting to see how they use Jalen Hurts, because they're not going to not use him.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with for Hurts, because what they tell you and what they actually do sometimes are not always the same thing. It's like Brent said, it's a 2-horse race. It would be interesting to see who it comes down, or what it comes down to here. But the NFC East doesn't have repeat winners a lot, like Brent said, so that's kind of makes me lean. But I wouldn't be shocked if either team won this, but I have to slightly lean towards Dallas.
Yeah, I agree.
South.
So for the South, earlier I talked about how great the Saints are. I don't have the Saints winning the division. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They built a one-year wonder team this year. For 2020, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, Godwin, and Evans, and O.J. Howard, that's going to be hard to stop. And I think that's enough to go toe-to-toe with the Saints. I think that's enough to top the Saints.
You even talk about Ronald Jones.
Well, that's because Ronald Jones is... there's nothing to talk about. I don't even think Ronald Jones is going to need to touch the ball. Hey, Brittany. So I think that Tampa Bay is going to take that division. It's going to be a one-year thing. So if there's any Buccaneers fans in here, I don't think there probably is. But if there are any here, don't get your hopes up for like a dynasty building.
Stay tuned, Brittany.
It's a one-year wonder, and I think it's enough to... You're gonna see that Breeze versus Brady battles that everyone's always compared Breeze to Brady. You're gonna really see who's the better quarterback this season.
Jake says he saw an article saying soft tissue injury. Yeah, they're saying that it's minor. He should be ready for week 1.
That's like a bruise. That's not a big deal.
So hopefully it is. It obviously can be a little concerning because of his injury past, but
right.
I don't think that this specific injury is that bad. Stay tuned, Brittany. We're going to talk about them next. The NFC South. Yeah, I got to go with the Saints. They've given me no reason to not pick the Saints. The Bucs do have a team that could either really bust out and be really good or could completely fall flat on their face. So I'm not saying the Bucs are not going to be good by any means. It's just the Saints have just given me no reason to not believe. Every year, they're right there. They're one of the best teams. Breeze, other than arm strength, hasn't really regressed any. Michael Thomas is obviously a beast as much as I dislike him. He's crybaby, obviously. That's no doubt about that. But except for when he plays against Xavier Rhodes, he seems to tear people up, but he doesn't have to deal with that this year. So those slant patterns get people for some reason. I don't understand, but he's good with them. Kamara still, I know he had an off year last year, but he's still a threat, obviously, especially if he gets the ball in open field on like a screen pass or any type of dump off. I don't think he's good enough to warrant really being afraid of him on the ground.
Right.
But I just think until Sean Payton's a good coach too. I know that the Bucs got Bruce Arians, but this is it's just new. They got a lot of new pieces in Tampa, so it's got to all click in order to be there. To me, Brady showed last year he's lost some arm strength, like Breeze did, right? That's part of being father time. Can he get the ball to the receivers the way they want to? Those receivers run a lot of deep routes. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they can adjust. They're great receivers, but it's knowing that that's their top thing to go to. It strikes a little concern, not much. Gronkowski hasn't played football in
like 2 years.
A little while, so we'll see how it goes. They definitely could. I'll stand here and tell you I'm wrong if it happens. I don't disbelieve in the Bucs, but I just want to see it before I put them ahead of the Saints. I do definitely think they're going to make the playoffs. They almost made the playoffs with Jameis Winston. If he would have threw 5 less interceptions on the season,
yep.
They probably would have been a playoff team because he lost a lot of those games by 1 score. Mm-hmm. So Jameis Winston was sorry, man. I know he threw 30 touchdowns, but
he also threw 30 interceptions.
30 interceptions. I don't think Brady's going to throw 30 touchdowns. You're going to regress in that area. But another key area for Tampa Bay, they're going to regress a lot in interceptions. Mm-hmm. So that's key too. So yeah, I got the Saints slightly. I think it's another division where it's a 2-horse race. Carolina hasn't shown me anything. Atlanta just keeps going backwards.
Yep.
So as of right now, that's how things stand here. So we'll hit the West now.
All right. So for the West, I have the Seattle Seahawks taking this division. That's a tough one. I mean, it seems like
division's hard.
It seems like every time we're talking about one of these divisions, we're saying it's a 2-team race, but this one really is. It's the 49ers or the Seahawks, and the 49ers are completely stacked, but your problem is you have no wide receivers that are healthy on that team. Jimmy Garoppolo misses every other year, and they're coming off from a Super Bowl hangover. So Seattle always makes the playoffs. Like, there's no reason for them not to, but I think that, and I think if they would have beaten San Francisco in that Week 15 or Week 16 game last season, then Seattle becomes the number 1 seed instead of San Francisco.
What's up, Tyler?
So I have Seattle as just an overall better team. If you put that ball into Russell Wilson's hands, he's not going to lose that game for you.
Oh, say hi, Sheldon.
Unless it's against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But besides that one time, Russell Wilson is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league, top 3 in my book, and that's all you really need is Russell Westbrook and
we're not done.
Russell Wilson, basketball. Russell Wilson to win you those football games, and I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do that. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I shockingly we agree on this one, which is the division I thought we would disagree on, right? Like, I have Seattle also winning this, and just like him, I do think it's a 2-horse race, but I think all those teams are good enough where they could take games from each other.
Yeah.
Because I think this is the most stacked division in football from top to bottom. Because the Rams have talent. I think they're the one that's regressing the most out of all these teams, but they have talent right there. So they could steal a game from San Francisco or Seattle. Arizona can definitely steal a game from those teams. Arizona is improving vastly and quickly.
Yes.
Fitz might retire next year, but they're still trending upwards. I mean, quick.
He's got 10 more years left.
Seems like it. But if this was next year, this might be a 3-team race.
Yeah.
I think Arizona's a year away, but they're good enough to steal a game somewhere from one of these teams.
Right. They were toe-to-toe with San Francisco in both of their games, if I remember right last season.
I think it's Seattle, too.
Yeah, they were right there, and that was without DeAndre Hopkins and Isaiah Simmons.
In another year, and I guess a little bit more experienced Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I just think that Seattle to me, it comes down to the quarterbacks, and who is literally going to look me in the eyes and tell me that Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Russell Wilson? I don't care what team you're a fan of. You can't tell me Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Russell Wilson. You can't, because Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is the second best quarterback in the league. If Patrick Mahomes didn't exist, he's there. Sorry, Lamar Jackson. Russell's done it longer.
And he can throw the ball.
And he can throw the ball better. So that's just how it is. And he's got a ring, which that speaks something too. Should have 2 rings, but
right.
We just went over that. So I got Seattle slightly, especially if they wind up having fans again at this season.
Oh, that's huge.
That's always huge, especially in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So plus San Francisco's playing that first place schedule, and Seattle gets to play that second place schedule. So that's always a difference maker. That's 2 less division rivals that Seattle's got, or division leaders that Seattle's got to play and San Francisco's got to play.
Mm-hmm.
That could be key going down the stretch. Coaching also, no knock on Shanahan, but Pete Carroll's like a coaching god, especially when it comes to defense. Even though the defense seems like it has holes, Pete Carroll makes them competitive enough where it doesn't matter what holes they're missing, that they can make stops when they need to make stops and make plays when they need to make plays. And that's kind of what it comes down to me. So I got Seattle. So we want to move back to the AFC North now.
All right, yeah. So for the AFC North, I think until somebody can prove it wrong, it's got to be the Ravens. I know that you have a competitive team in Pittsburgh. You have, with all the injuries they'd had last year, they almost made the playoffs. The Browns have all the weapons in the world, but the Ravens are proving that they are just a standalone in the AFC North. That just no one's figured out how to stop Lamar except for the Tennessee Titans, and it's just that team has so many weapons on both offense and defense, where it's hard for me to make a case for the other 2 teams. I'm not even going to talk about the Bengals, because as they're going the right direction, they're so far behind.
They're so bad. They got more holes than just Joe Burrow.
I didn't even include those in the Patrick Mahomes talk. Completely forgot, because they're so bad.
Yeah, they were. That's true. We didn't even include them. I still don't think they're worse than the Jaguars, but
right.
Yeah, I also got the Ravens. I don't know how anybody can not pick the Ravens right now until there's until you show them something. Like, I get that people might say, I think Lamar's going to regress. Show me until, right? Like, Pittsburgh's getting Ben back, but Ben did not look good before he got injured last year. So what are you really improving that much, or is Ben washed up? We're going to find out, right? But until then, like, how am I supposed to put him above Lamar Jackson?
Right.
I just can't do it, right? Pittsburgh, great coached, but Baltimore's better coached.
Yeah.
That's just how Harbaugh's better than Tomlin. No knock on Tomlin. Tomlin's a good coach. Cleveland, Okay, I thought my draft was starting for a second. I was like, oh, Cleveland has got to prove it first. Okay, right? All the like you just said, all the talent in the world. That roster is loaded. If Cleveland wins the division, I won't be like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming, right? Because of what's on paper. But it's another thing where you got to show me.
Right.
You just got to show me. Obviously, there's questions with Baker. I don't fully believe that last year's struggles were completely on Baker, but he's still got to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
Because just because we say that doesn't mean that that's true. If Baker goes out there and still throws it to the wrong team, what? So, and the Bengals aren't even in the discussion. So I don't have much to say about this until you can slow down Lamar Jackson and figure out how to tell me that John Harbaugh's not a good coach. Then I got no argument. So.
And then, so for the East, AFC East, I have New England taking it again. This one was a tough one because Buffalo is heading in the right direction where it seems like New England is heading in the wrong direction. But a healthy Cam Newton that fits this system, I think, is what the Patriots need to give them an edge over Buffalo. Buffalo is a great young up-and-coming team. But minus that game where they just completely manhandled the Cowboys last year, they didn't really win any games that were against quality opponents. I know that it's the NFL and every opponent's supposed to be a quality opponent, but when you put them up against teams that were of equal or better skill level, they were getting beat, minus the Cowboys, where New England doesn't lose those games. So I think that until you see that Cam Newton can't succeed, for me, it has to be the Patriots are going to take it with Buffalo right behind them.
For me, it's hard to argue against that. It really is. I did put Buffalo there. I think Buffalo's defense is really good. I know New England's defense looked good, but then when it got towards the middle of the season, we started to see the leaks. It started with the Ravens on Sunday night last year. You started to see the leaks that maybe they weren't as good, or it was the quality of opponents New England faced in the first 8 games of the season.
Right.
Buffalo's got a better defense than New England, so I don't care what numbers you pull up from last year. Watch film again, even against quality teams that Buffalo lost to. Their defense did not play bad.
No, it wasn't them losing the football game.
Yeah, a lot of it was Josh Allen not being able to make some plays, but Josh Allen's young. I'm not trying to put all that on his shoulders. I think he's going to take a step forward this year, but I just think Buffalo's got the defense. Josh Allen, I don't know how Cam Newton's going to be. That's a problem for me. If Cam Newton, because he's pretty much got the starting job. I don't want to hear nobody say anything about Stidham, okay? Cam Newton's probably got the starting job, unless Cam Newton shits the bed and they have to bench him.
Right.
It's his job, right? For now. If he's healthy, they can win the division. If he's healthy and he's old Cam, he can win the division. But if he's not healthy, I don't think they can beat Buffalo. I think Buffalo's got more Buffalo's never had confidence that they can beat New England, and I think in their head they think they can beat New England. Like they think they can go in there and beat them now.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that they're doubting that at all. And that's good for them because this is the first time in 17 years that they've had in their head that they can go beat New England. I know teams are supposed to think they can win every game, but they weren't in the locker room like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill Tom Brady this weekend. No, they were 3-30 against Tom Brady.
Yeah, there's a few teams on your schedule where you're like, okay, well, we're probably not going to win this football game.
Yeah, in your head. You may not say that out loud, but in your head, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when the Vikings play Seattle in Seattle. Right? In my head, as big a fan I am, I'm like, I don't like it. Their players probably think that too. That's the same thing until they go out there, right? Buffalo finally thinks, hey, 3-30 doesn't mean anything. No, Brady's not there. This is our chance. Then confidence leads to a lot, especially in pro sports, in any sport. I give the slight edge to Buffalo. It's definitely higher on New England now because I thought New England was going to be really bad. Cam Newton's had a good camp. It's kind of put them up there on my list, so I think it could go either way. Obviously, New England's better coached. No one's going to argue that. Right? That could make a difference down the stretch. We'll see. But I put Buffalo slightly ahead of time. That's kind of just my upset pick type thing because I know a lot of people now that Cam Newton's performing well, let's put New England back up there again. I think all the teams in that division are going in the right direction actually, except New England. So because Cam Newton's not a long-term fix for New England.
No.
So they got to find something else out. So they're not really trending in the right direction.
they're just
Cam Newton's not better than Tom Brady anyway, so either way, it's a digression.
Yeah, 100%.
We'll have to see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see, especially Buffalo versus New England this year. It'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, so AFC South. This one is just like, you could take the 3 teams in the South, not including Jacksonville, and make a case for any one of them. But the one that I'm going to give the edge to is the Colts. And it's not necessarily what the Colts are doing right, it's what the other teams are doing wrong. So you look at Houston, and they give away arguably one of the best wide receivers in the league for peanuts. They were just like, here, he's got 3 years left on his contract, have him, and we'll just take your washed up running back and a 4th round pick for it. Like, that
was crazy. I was so shocked when that trade happened.
I think by doing that, the Texans completely took themselves out of the divisional race. Now, Watson is amazing, but
definitely, I don't even want to argue that.
But his wide receivers, Will Fuller can't stay on the field. Kenny Stills has all these legal problems that he's facing now. Kiki Cootie's not going to scare anybody, and that's basically what you got. So Deshaun Watson's still going to win you football games, but I think that by getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins like that, it just crushes your team's morale. And then you have the Tennessee Titans. Ooh, Stefan, if you're watching this, don't get too mad, but they made one of the dumbest decisions, I think, when they had to choose between which one of their 2 offensive stars they're going to give the big money to. You could choose Derrick Henry, who literally led the league in rushing and cannot be stopped. Oh, they're going to give him a 1-year contract, franchise tag. Or you're going to give Ryan Tannehill, who, don't get me wrong, Tannehill lit up. Like, he revitalized the Titans team last year. But are you going to, once you've paid him, are you going to get the Tannehill that was the Miami Dolphins Tannehill? Or are you going to get the one that was playing really well for Mike Vrabel? And I just don't have the answer for that. Where the Colts they got Phillip Rivers. He's a 1-year fix, but he's an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett. They got Marlon Mack. I can't think of the running back that they got, but it's not Dobbins. It's the other one. Jonathan
from
Taylor.
Wisconsin, yeah.
Yeah, they got Jonathan Taylor to help the load with Marlon Mack. They just got DeForest Buckner. Their defense is already stacked. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. T.Y. Hilton's still getting it done. The Colts are going to be one of those teams, they don't win the game very, very flashy, but they're going to go down and they're going to get 5 to 7 yards of play, and they're going to just not lose the football game. So the Colts are going to go in and take the final divisional spot. They're not going to have a great record, but they're going to be enough to win that division.
They'll be the 4th seed.
Yeah, they'll be the 4th seed. They're going to host 1 game, and they're going to be probably one and done. But it's just the AFC South is not a good division.
It doesn't change your mind that Derrick Henry signed a deal now?
Well, no, not really, because you tied up all this money on Tannehill. You don't have any more money to help that team out because you just sunk yourself into a hole for a quarterback that has really showed he can play like half of the year really well for Tennessee. And at that point, they weren't putting the game on Tannehill's shoulders. They were taking the ball from Tannehill, handing it off to Derrick Henry.
Especially in the playoffs. Henry carried him through the playoffs.
Yes, 100%.
Tannehill did play really good during the regular season, but they showed the kind of confidence they really had in Tannehill when they got to the playoffs, and Tannehill threw 6 passes.
But it was just, it was insulting the way that they gave Tannehill that money when it's Derrick Henry's team. And yeah, they did go back and they paid Derrick Henry, but they should have did that from the start, and they didn't.
I personally have the Titans winning the division. I agree with him that it's not a very good division. I have the Titans this will be like their 5th straight 9-7 season, in my opinion. That's where I think they're going to be. They have confidence now. They've been to the AFC Championship game now. They have confidence. I think Vrabel's a pretty solid head coach.
I think he's great.
I don't think he's really the reason why the team's not making the moves they're making. That's the front office. So, but I just think Derrick Henry's going to run people over. You're not going to stop it. Tannehill will not lose you football games. But that's the problem when I come with him and Rivers, because Rivers will lose you football games, and he's proven that. Especially if he's in one of he goes through funks where he has great years and then he has bad years, and he just cycles through them. Right? You don't know what Phillip Rivers you're going to have, or if he's past his prime. If he's even somewhat the Phillip Rivers of old. I think that he's obviously an improvement over Brissett. So I would, if I had to rank the division, they would be ahead of Houston for me. I would have the Colts at 2. Again, I think they're all going to be 9, 7, 8, 8, and 8. Like that's going to be how it is. If the Colts finish ahead of the Texans, it'll be by tiebreaker because they swept them or they beat common opponents or something. But I think they'll finish ahead of Houston. But I just think that just Derrick Henry is just too much for him. Tennessee's defense isn't bad. The receivers, especially A.J. Brown, really stepped up last year. Corey Davis still has a ton of talent. They just didn't utilize him. I don't know what's going on there, but I think he's in a contract year, is he not?
I think this is his 4th year, so
Corey Davis has got to try to perform here.
Right.
Jonnu Smith had flashes of being great, and then he just disappears. I don't know what's going on there, but he's got ability clearly. It's just sloppy. It's hard to pick a division this sloppy. Deshaun Watson, obviously, I don't want to not talk about the Texans. He can win you games. I feel bad for him now. So first thing I said when that trade happened, after I got done holding my head, I cannot believe what they just did. It was like, wow, dude. If I was him, I would ask for a trade at this point because you're like, dude, you're not trying to win games for me. Like Bill O'Brien, the
worst GM in the league.
The GM is terrible. He's not that bad of a head coach, but Bill O'Brien, the GM, is terrible, right? It's like LeBron, the GM in the NBA.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're bad. You're great at one thing, but you're terrible at the other. Like, you just don't. Like, I don't know what he was thinking. This is not the first bonehead move this guy's made, so I don't understand it. I don't get it. Probably never will get it, but for that reason, I can't pick Houston. Deshaun Watson's got nobody to throw the ball to. He'll keep plays open that even his mediocre receivers will get open because he can move around in the pocket, and that's why they'll still be a 500 team. But 500, what's that? Like nothing. Maybe you'll make the AFC's weak. They could get the 7 seed, at 8 and 8. But I think it's between the Titans and the Colts for real in that division. So 9 and 7's winning the division in my opinion. So take that for how you want it. Obviously, I'm not that confident in Tennessee, but I had to pick a winner, so that's just what I went with. So AFC West.
All right. Well, first, hey Iman.
I didn't even see that. What's going on,
Nice
bro?
to see you, bud. All right. So
Tyler Tiffany, what's up, man?
I don't even know if we really need to talk about the AFC West all that much because there's only one team in that division. I feel like. So I think that when you look at the other 3 teams, when you look at the Raiders, you look at the Chargers, and you look at the Broncos, they're all going in the right direction, but the Chiefs don't lose anyone, ever. They just gave Mahomes enough money that, half the countries in the world don't make that much money in a year, and Mahomes is making that. I think that the Chiefs are going to run away with this division. It's going to be the biggest gap out of all of those division winners. It's going to be like a 4 or 5 game gap on it. The Chiefs they can pull their starters out halfway through the season and still take the division there. It's going to be really really fun to be watching football if you're a Chiefs fan. Not so much if you're one of the other 3 teams in that division. It's just Chiefs all the way.
I agree with his winner, and I agree with it'll probably be a pretty easy divisional win for him. What I don't agree with is the rest of the teams in the division, because I think that there are 2 teams in the division are really trending in the right direction. I know I got a lot of Broncos fans in here that the offense is going to be really good this year, I think. But you're not going to compete with Kansas City. You're not yet. Drew Lock turns out to be the way that you guys think he's going to be, and the way that he looked at the end of last year.
Oh, then 100%.
You guys have a real shot in the next in 2 years of being just as good as the Kansas City Chiefs could be, especially with the receivers you guys drafted. I know they're showing out in training camp. They look really good. That's always a good thing. But the Chiefs are too talented. You got Mahomes. You can't ever bet against Mahomes. Nobody can tell me he's not the best quarterback in the league. Sorry, Drew Brees. Sorry, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Lamar. I don't care. Right? Patrick Mahomes is better.
Yep.
Sorry, but you got a running game back there. It seems like it really doesn't matter who they plug in back there. They decently produce because they're afraid of Patrick Mahomes. That rookie that they just drafted. What the hell is his name? his 32nd pick.
Claire
I never, it's hyphenated.
Yeah.
I never remember what it is. You guys know who I'm talking about, though. I've seen tape on him. I don't know how he dropped to 32. I thought he should have been picked before that. He's good. So, and then you got Tyreek Hill and you got Mecole Hardman, guys that just run past you on the field, right?
Yeah.
So you can't even be like, I'm going to take my fastest defensive back and I'll back him up a few yards and put him on Tyreek Hill. It's like, okay.
That
So
doesn't
Mecole
stop
Hardman
him.
will just run past you then
Yeah.
over on the other side. And then you have arguably, so nobody, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Thank you. And obviously, arguably, San Francisco people do not yell at me, arguably the best tight end in the league in Travis Kelce. Very close, but those two are way past anybody else. So those are weapons. Plus, I mean, the defense started showing up last year too. I know that they're not like a shiny defense that people are like, wow, look at that, but they're good.
It was
Like,
enough to not lose football games.
especially the second half of the year. Like the first half of the year, you were like, oh my god, they might not win in the playoffs because their defense can't stop nobody. But they did. They turned it on and they played well. And outside of the first quarter in the playoffs, they played well in the playoffs. They kind of started slow, but at the second, third, and fourth quarter, they shut teams down.
Yep.
The Raiders are improving. The Broncos are improving. The Chargers are yet to be determined. But that division's going to be really good very soon.
In a few years.
Just not yet. So, to me, this was the easiest division to pick a winner in. Like I said, a lot of talent, a lot of young talent in that division. Sorry. But it's got to be the Chiefs. Nobody can pick against them. Fans of whoever, the Denver people who tried to convince me before I went on the podcast. Sorry.
I think Denver's going to make the playoffs this year, but I don't think that they're going to get there via division winner.
Yeah, I mean, in the AFC, you guys, it's not that hard to make the playoffs. So you guys do have something to look forward to. I don't think it's going to be a disappointing season. You guys are going to be better.
Yeah.
So I think the Raiders definitely have something to look forward to. The Chargers, hopefully they have something to look forward to. Just got to kind of see a little bit more from the Chargers before I put them in the right direction company yet. But so that's what we got for today, guys. We'll see you guys week 1. Thanks for joining us. Brent, thanks for coming on the show and filling Neil's spot. So.
Absolutely. This has been great, and hope that we're going to just have a lot of fun this season. Really fortunate to have this opportunity. So thank you to all my new fans, everyone that loves me more than Coop already. We're really looking forward to answering all your guys' questions and seeing how the season unfolds.